To help you ensure that your seed enterprise investment scheme shares are compliant with HMRC's guidance, I'll be doing two main things. Number one, I'll be sharing my screen so you can see exactly what needs to be done. And number two, I'll link in the description below a free template checklist you can download right now for free. Now, before we get started, let me just very quickly introduce myself. I'm Malcolm Zoppi, an English qualified solicitor and the managing director of my firm, Gaffney Zoppi. And my goal on YouTube is to make business law easy for entrepreneurs like you. Also, make sure to stay until the end of the video to find out what the Companies Act 2006 requires from you as the issuing company to comply with the law. Amazing, let's get started. So right here, you should be able to see the checklist for the requirements of the shares, and we will now quickly go through them. So starting with the first, the shares that you issue must be fully paid. So the investor can't say, give me the shares now and I'll pay you later. When you give them the shares, those must have been paid. Second, they cannot be redeemable shares. Redeemable shares are when either the company or the shareholder can notify the other party stating, I'd like you to buy my shares now. So there can't be that right, especially not for the shareholder. Third, they cannot carry any special rights to any assets of the company, meaning those shares cannot have priority over the assets of the company in case the company goes into liquidation, because that would allow the investor to minimize their risks, which is against the purpose of the scheme. And fourthly, there are no special arrangements, including, for example, the arrangement to guarantee the investment or protect it, to sell the shares at the end of the investment period, to structure your activities to let the investor benefit in a way that's not intended by the scheme. Now, probably this is a reference to the General Anti-Avoidance Regulation, also known as the GAR, and this is to avoid tax evasion by investors. There also cannot be an arrangement whereby the investor invests in your company and in return you invest in theirs. And lastly, the arrangement can't be solely for the purpose of avoiding tax. There must be a genuine commercial reason. Great, so these are the HMRC requirements for the shares if you want your investors to benefit from this scheme and its tax relief. But the Companies Act 2006 has its own requirements to ensure that the shares are actually legally valid. But before we get there, make sure to subscribe to the channel to continue to receive pragmatic, to the point and practical legal information and templates. Right, so what does the Companies Act require you to do as a company that is issuing shares? In short, there needs to be a procedure that is followed and documentation to reflect or evidence the existence of that procedure. So firstly, the directors of the company, the board, must have a board meeting, and that board meeting must be evidenced by board minutes. Then secondly, you might need to pass a resolution of the shareholders of the company, especially if there are any pre-emption rights. So these are the rights that grant existing shareholders the right of first refusal, so the right to buy those new shares first. If those exist, which typically they exist, especially as in statute, meaning in the Companies Act, but they might also be in your articles of association. Then once everything has been done, the money has been received, the decisions have been passed, you will need to issue share certificates to the investors. Then you will need to update your company's internal registers, especially the register of members. So this is usually a spreadsheet that records who are the shareholders of the company and information about them, for example, their correspondence address. And lastly, you will need to submit information, possibly a form, to Companies House to reflect the change in share capital. If you would like assistance with following the corporate procedure under the Companies Act, then feel free to reach out via the website linked in the description below. But before you go on and issue your shares to your investors, you might also want to ensure that your company qualifies for the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. To find out, watch this video right here that tells you exactly whether your company qualifies or not. Thanks for watching.